Whoops.
Hey, Julie Kelly.
Somehow I lost you.
Can you hear me?
Oh, on Monroe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
That was a young Otmaro Ruiz too. Wow.
Oh, I think all of us. I think we
Yeah.
were all a little bit younger, but
Yeah.
definitely, yeah. You can see the tighter skin on us.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's just the way it is. That's the way the game is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
That's yeah. You're right.
Gotta live with that. Gratitude, I guess. Just
Yes.
like your bulletin board says back there.
Exactly. Yeah, always have to remember that, man. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's it's easy for it to come out your mouth, but it's another thing to exemplify it, to make it active. So I don't know. that's obviously, I don't need to say what the last couple of years has presented. It's certainly definitely has given us a glimpse into, man, we didn't really have it that bad.
Yeah.
We found out what it could be like. Oh, a taste of it for sure. So
Yeah. Well, we were just talking this morning about how the news has reported that there's less men in the workforce now, which is just kind of interesting. It's less men, not less women or not less people, less men. And I kind of feel like people just kind of went through the pandemic and said, wow, I actually don't have to kill myself, you know,
hmm
living and stuff, I could actually maybe do what I want, instead
yeah,
of,
maybe it's helped stress levels.
yeah.
I think I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's what is it. Women working or more in the force or
I don't know. I'm not sure. It just said less men in the force. Um,
interesting.
the force. Ooh.
young young Jedi's that we are.
Have you ever seen the movie Free Guy?
No, but somebody told. Yeah, I that came out not too long ago, right?
Right, right. It's
Yeah,
funny. It's a
it
funny
is.
movie. Yeah, it's a funny concept. Yeah. It's about a video game and one of the characters, basically becomes an AI alive. But it's funny, but there was a reference which I won't tell you because if you see it, it's just a
I'm
funny.
gonna see it now. I'm gonna see it now. You can't tell me. So that's it.
Ryan Reynolds. I like Ryan.
Ryan Reynolds is in. Yeah, okay. I do remember seeing the trailer, so
Yeah.
it is. It's not foreign to me. Yeah, thank you for the tip.
It's not a heavy
Ding.
movie, but it's fun. It's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Um,
Joey DeLeon.
yes. Hi, Cathy Segal-Garcia Hoffman.
I don't know a huge amount about you. I mean, we've worked together, but I don't know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, well, I start different with everybody, but I want to know where you grew up.
Sure. Well, I grew up. I was born May 28th, 1968.
What?
Um,
Wait,
yeah.
that's my birthday.
No, it's not.
Not the year, but the May 28th.
May 28th. I was born on a Tuesday at 7:45 Eastern Standard Time in the evening, and I was born to two parents, my mother
Crazy.
and my father, obviously, Lucille Lanaus, and my dad, Joseph DeLeon Sr. Thus, I inherited the junior status. Yeah, I was born. Wow, you serious? Or you just put? Oh, you do that with
No,
everybody?
no. I'm serious. That's my birthday,
Wow,
1953. But yeah.
I wow. Look at that, man. And that's my mom's birthday is on June 2nd. So we've always had this,
Yeah.
kind of kinetic thing with us together, and as kids, we just lumped it all into one day, where
Yeah.
we'd celebrate both our birthdays and stuff. Um, as far as some of the nuts and bolts as how I got here, yeah, we have to go back. My dad, my dad was a musician that was, in the end, he struggled to find, some kind of peace with that because he wanted to play music all the time. Um, but he different in those times. I was born in mid Manhattan, area known as Hell's Kitchen, um, Polyclinic Hospital. My dad and my mom lived in Spanish Harlem at the time. So I hadn't, I usually tell people, where I really grew up was the Bronx. But that came a few years later, a couple of years later. But my dad grew up in a family of musicians, as did my mom. Her father, um, a jack of all trades type of guy, played a little accordion, but he always had a conga drum at the house, and that conga drum, I still have it to this day with the same head. It hasn't been changed because it literally, if I take the head off, the thing will disintegrate.
Yeah.
So now it's more like an heirloom. It's something more like a touchstone. Like, oh yeah, well, that's where I started making my, getting my business started there, and playing the drum. But my dad is the one, the side that grew up with a family of musicians. Most notably, I guess, I always called him uncle, but it was really first cousin. And his name was Jose Luis Mangual, who was born in Juana Diaz, Puerto Rico in 1924. He, I won't, get into all the pieces, but he made his bones playing at the time with a gentleman known as Francisco Grillo, aka Machito, and my cousin played with him for almost 20 years. But he was a pioneer of the bongo drums, which was something that was starting to elevate in the 40s and in the 50s. You had the big three, as they call them. You had, as I said, Machito. You had also another inspiring band leader, Tito Rodriguez, and of course the king, Tito Puente. So those three were, that was box office for us at a time where, demographically we're growing. People are emigrating into New York because now they're hearing the sounds and smells of where they came from, and so land of milk and honey type of philosophy was taking place, and thus elevated and popularized the music through those three engines. Mind you, the small combo groups didn't really exist as yet in terms of the Latin jazz format, i.e. Cal Tjader. Cal Tjader is really, probably arguably the guy that really,
Started.
took that path and created this this movement, this culture. The other thing is that big bands were also, life is increasing financially, and big bands are decreasing.
Yeah.
And I mean, we know the story. That's it's about money. Most of the time, it's definitely not about making the music. That's the easy part. It's hey, I have kids, I have family to support. I got to do things. It's things that you don't like. They're really untalkable subjects because it puts you in a place where it's not a happy place, and so we don't like to stay there for too long a period. But getting to my dad, my dad also had, he didn't read music, so he just played the drum. I mean, it was like, it wasn't like a shut up and dribble thing, but I don't think he didn't take it further than maybe he could have, but he seemed to be okay with it. He was playing what he wanted to do. He had a couple of really great opportunities to play with some seminal bands of the 70s. You might know Joe Bataan. Joe Bataan is still Joe Bataan. If for those that don't know Joe Bataan was part of the kind of the 60s movement with salsa and English, a little bit of boogaloo period. Was a great singer. He's actually hugely popular out here on the West Coast, which is something I had no idea that he had this kind of mythical status. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I just saw him I think it was September, where he was here doing a show, and so we got to touch base for a minute, and so a lot of fond memories there. My dad played with a group. This was my dad.
Oh,
I don't know if
wow.
you can see that. Yeah. So this
Wow,
was him.
cool.
This was 1975, I believe.
Wait,
And
go a little lower.
oh, okay.
There you
Yeah,
go. Yeah.
that's there he is.
Wow, what
And
a handsome guy too. Ooh.
excuse me. Yeah, yeah, he actually was. He had a beard for a while, and then he was going through this phase. He must have been about, what, I guess 30, 32, 33 years old at that time. And this was at a time where early endorsement things were just kind of beginning to pop into the mind of Latin percussion founder Martin Cohen. Shout out to Martin Cohen if he's checking it out.
Yeah.
Very inspirational cat. And what I wanted to show that my dad used to play with this, started playing with this group and co-founded this group called Bobby Rodriguez y La Compañía. And this was a very unique band. This is their first album, Lead Me to That Beautiful Band, produced by Ray Barretto, the late, great Ray Barretto. And he, I guess Ray believed in their sound. One thing that was unique about salsa music in the 70s is that people were actually really trying to carve their niche and nestle themselves into an individual sound, something unique. What was unique about Bobby Rodriguez is that,
I'm sorry, I have to ask.
yeah.
It wasn't the Bobby Rodriguez from here, right?
No. But good. But
What
I'll get
did
to.
Bobby play?
Bobby was a woodwind player. He played flute. He played sax. But his instrument that I believe he really loved the most was the clarinet.
Oh,
He was
wow.
a Benny Goodman fan. So yeah. So here's a time where these Western instruments, where you never saw a clarinet in a salsa band.
No.
You still don't.
Yeah.
But he said, screw it. I got to do something, and I'm feeling this. And he actually later implemented banjo on a record years later. But just showing you that he was constantly thinking about pushing the music. Yeah, he had an older brother too that was a band leader too, so I think that also kind of helped kind of formulate his concepts, and was really driven and very sure of himself. Very charismatic guy on top of it. So, you got all these,
Wow.
you got all these tools, man, that he just possessed. And it was just a feat of marvel. I remember even one time, check this out. This is how crazy he was. He lived in the same apartment building that we did.
Yeah.
And one time he said, you know what, guys? I'm going to jump from the 6th floor down to the ground. And I was like, what? with a twin mattress on the ground for him to land.
Jeez.
Now, let me just say, like, I don't know what was going on. I certainly wasn't putting one and one together, but somebody was tripping here. And I just, I always look back at that because I remember it was a big, like, everybody just started coming out. It's like, what's going on? And I don't know. I don't know all the details, but it's. I look back on it. It's kind of funny.
Did he actually jump?
No.
Oh.
He was.
He just made.
No.
He wanted to make something happen. Hey, I'm
think
just
so.
curious. I'm curious if we can, just for a second, check out Bobby Rodriguez. It sounds so interesting. I'm just so curious. So Joey, I'm sorry, Bobby Rodriguez.
Y la compañía.
Is that?
Hey. Y la compañía. You probably want to put that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I know that. Yeah, those are that's him. Yeah, that's a little bit later. That third record is one that my dad performed on. Actually, kind of a crazy story. My mom was there is one video somewhere where my dad they featured my dad. I don't know if it's there. Um, it's you have to go. I don't know. I don't know where it's at. It's probably have to go down a little bit. Um, I know I had it in my channel somewhere. Um,
Should I look at your channel?
yeah,
Okay.
I think it should be there. I haven't seen that in a while, but I'm almost positive it's there.
Uh,
That's there's two Joey DeLeons, by the way. There's one famous one in the Philippines.
so if I put percussionist, maybe, is he a
Yeah,
percussionist too?
yeah.
Uh,
Let me see. I can maybe find out here. Uh, keep going. Uh, is he in
you have a
there?
lot of
Hold on.
video, man.
Yeah, I have a few, but I even have a lot more now. Um, I'm trying to see if there's yeah, let me see if I know I have it in there. It's under something I'm gonna look up awards. Oh, Latin New York Awards. Uh, Bobby Rodriguez. Uh, give me 1 second. Thanks for your patience.
No problem. Is it this it? Numero seis?
Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's it. So this was in a magazine called Latin New York that was a very hugely popular magazine, and the band had the magazine hosted its first awards, and they won for best new band 1976, I believe. I mean, they've been a band together, but due to that first record effort, they were casted as the best new band.
Yeah, it
Uh,
does say 1976 here.
yeah,
So
there
your
you go.
dad's playing
He's
congas.
playing. Yeah, yeah.
Let's,
You'll catch a couple of glimpses of him if you played. You know, if the video
okay, let's watch a
played a little
little.
bit.
Let's.
Yeah, that was a huge song called Numero Seis too,
Uh,
which is the number six train. It's a major conduit in New York, in the Bronx.
yeah, very exciting group.
I mean, I could tell you. I mean, they lit places on fire. I mean, it was just a really unique band, a band of somewhat irrational misfits. You know, they all had something to all. They all just had some gifts, supreme gifts, all of them. Yeah, my dad. He'll show up in a minute. That's Joe Wallets. There's my dad. That yeah, and you know my dad was you know he just a character.
Yeah,
You know it's one of those things where you find out a lot about your father later
yeah,
than you did because you know he you know I was young and you know he was hanging out with some interesting people, some colorful people, um, and also trying to balance a family life, which you know he had a huge inability to do that, unfortunately, and probably no fault of his own, really.
yeah.
Just you know, product of where you grew up, and you know, just life as he was coming up. That's Joe Wallace. He lives in San Francisco. He's still, I think he's still playing or retired, but another figure that was an important element to the band too. You know, the band and that trombone player, may he rest in peace, Eddie Hernandez, better also known as Eddie Iglesias because he changed his name at some point. But he was a huge influence and an unbelievable. You say like like Michael Jordan to Scottie Pippen, like he was kind of like a Scottie Pippen to Bobby Rodriguez. Um, the crazy story is that on the original record, the timbale player
Yeah.
was a guy named Felix Nazario. And Felix, one time my parents had a party at the house, and they found out later, you know, my mom's wedding ring was taken, and they found out it was him,
Oh,
and they snapped him out of the band immediately. So this other drummer that's there now became a huge influence named Charlie Salinas,
oh,
and he was I don't know if you know, somebody told me he passed away not too long ago, but I remember just being locked watching him, you know, because I always seen my dad, but like just what he was doing was just stellar technical command of the instrument. Um, this is at a time in the 70s where if you had two percussionists, but you wanted elements of every style of Latin music,
yeah.
that means that's meaning to for the timbal player to also take the role of the bongo player too.
Uh-huh.
So that was something that was uh, popularized during that time period,
Now,
and he
when you say that,
yeah.
uh, do you so what does that exactly mean? Does that mean where the timbali player would normally play? Is
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Generally, the bongos generally are verse-driven uh, areas where you play. So, um, but sometimes, like there's, for instance, a cha-cha-cha music. You play a cha-cha-cha. So that's a whole different style where it's required you play a bell. There's no bongos in that music. So, for instance, so you just you don't have to worry about that. But
Hey, Joey,
and
would
so
you mind shifting your camera a little so we can see the top of your face?
yeah,
Thank
how's
you.
that?
Yeah,
Is
good.
that better?
Thank you. Yep,
Okay.
go ahead.
So yeah, so I my you know, so that role was kind of pulled in together uh just because some of us needed that aspect of having the bongos there. uh you know, they filled the void um where it was needed. And so I took notice of that, and I also just, you know, through studying, I saw that there was a lot more people that were implementing that style at that time,
Uh-huh.
and I just wasn't as aware of it. Again, here's another thing where even in the small band setting or smaller, um, the number players are getting reduced. You know, so there's one less. So that's more money to divvy up, or just that's what it worked out to. So
So that
um,
so the con so before there might have been a conga player and a bongo player?
oh, and a team ballet player, all
Oh,
three,
oh, oh,
all three.
wow.
Yeah, that's essentially that's the rhythm section as we know it in its authentic
No,
fashion.
no drum trap?
No, you know what? Drums were a special entity. Although Tito Puente I don't know if I won't say he was the first, but certainly in his format, he started using it in the 70s a lot. Um, I think it was also to help drum up business sales to get, you know, to have the drummer there. The thing is that his role, you have to talk about the role, especially within the timbal player and the drummer. So the thing was, Tito was staying on the timbales strictly, and vibraphone, of course. He was a magnificent vibraphonist who was taught by Terry Gibbs, I believe. Terry's still alive. If he's out there, shout out. That's a goat, man. That guy. You don't hear his name because obviously he's almost like 99 years old.
Yeah.
But he's still at it. He's still living, and his son is a great drummer, Jerry.
Yeah.
He lived out here for many years too. So basically, it has to be discussed because the more percussion, the more chances that you're going to get in the way of somebody, and that's the thing. It's like Jenga, all the pieces have to fit really laterally and really fit well, so that there is no house building going on. There's no it's carefully constructed, and everybody has a role, and if you stick to the role, then it's going to come out super clean. Today, there's no shock in finding a drum set in it, in the music. It's especially like music that's been coming out of Cuba the last 25-30 years has been dominated with the drum set player, but the drum set player also has a timbale setup as well. Right. So here's another thing where same kind of route that the bongo player and timbal player relationship, now it's been pushed over to the drum set timbal player, because you're wanting both elements when allowable for you to do it.
Yeah. By the way, Eddie Resto is here and he says hi.
Eddie Resto, the pipes are calling. Eddie is one of my very best friends on earth, and sometimes I don't tell him that. And
you heard it here first, Eddie.
Yeah, well, just it's public, intellectual properties. But Eddie's been in my life, and funny thing, I met Eddie through a gentleman. I'm looking at this album. I have never opened it up, but this is an album. If I can, I'm going to open it up now. I haven't opened this album up ever because I don't have a turntable. But there was a gentleman named Larry Carish.
Yeah, Larry Carish. I knew of him through Jay Clayton, and he worked together a lot.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Well, I met him at a time. At that time, I started playing with Larry. This is probably 97, 98, 99 or something like that. And Larry had even told me about Eddie, and so one time Eddie's at a gig, and so we meet, and we just like rice and beans, just put them together, and you're gonna have a great relationship. And he's been there for me through thick and thin, especially when I was going through my separation and divorce some years back. I don't want to get into it too much, but he was there. He supported me. He had my back, and I can't say enough how much I feel about him. I think he knows that too. And if he doesn't, that's because he's a.
He said he knows it.
He's a very special person, and you don't know what you have in life, especially when you're out here alone and you find that there's other people like you, and so you gravitate towards that, and there's just there's an easygoing feeling. There's always been an easygoing feeling with him, and we've even had our, we've had our disputes and stuff like that, but we always come back, so but his energy, his relentlessness, his enthusiasm, his love for the music, you can't help but like vibe off that and run with it, because that's what he's done for me. And just yeah, it's senseless what he's done. It's ridiculous, you know.
There you go, Eddie, man. It's pretty
Yeah,
nice.
I'm laying down the beef here.
Pretty nice comments, man. Well,
Yeah.
I was thinking too. I mean, Joey Heredia was my brother-in-law for, I mean, literally for 17 years, but we still consider each other family. But yeah, he and I saw him over the years, and learned from him. And he, of course, his dad was also a percussionist as well, and his mom was a singer, and yeah. So I was just thinking, reflecting on that because
Yeah.
since we played
Yeah,
most of together.
yeah, Joey's got he's got a fascinating story uh, of his life too, man. And if he's out there listening, shout out, Joey. I love you. Um, Hope you're doing well. Um, I think we're supposed to do a gig actually sometime soon, so
Oh, cool.
stay stay tuned for that.
Yeah,
Uh,
I want to
yeah.
come.
Okay. Yeah. For sure. I'm pretty sure I got to call him on that because he reached out a couple of weeks ago. So see if it comes to fruition. I think it did. So I'll let you know for sure.
Cool.
But Joey, check this out. I I I was getting into, I was in college and I got a record from a friend of mine, and it was Frank Gambale, and it was, I don't know what year it was, but he Joey was on that record, and I could not stop listening to that record for a year. I don't know, maybe. It was really uh, just because I of the Latin drumming that I had heard, and not only that, he just had this ridiculous pocket.
Yeah.
Uh, Very what I would say, a lot of personality into the tuning of his drums.
Hmm.
The snare drum was like high, but like it had this snap to it. He was. I mean, it was just such strong, solid playing. But then, like the Latin, how he incorporated it, was like really interesting in terms of him. What do you call it? Integrating the sounds, where he did it. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. The sounds that he did, that he created. For me, I was just getting, I was playing drum set. I took up drum set when I was about 12 years old or something like that. But I was more driven by straight ahead bebop music. I was into straight ahead music for a long time, because I I know I was always going to have the Latin, but I didn't know how it would what to where it would take me to, in terms of, oh, okay, now I'm seeing that the drums are this really extremely versatile character and versatile sound that, hell, if I could try and get a little bit of that and still keep doing some of the other things that I'm doing. In other words, just expanding my portfolio, put it that way, my musical portfolio, just trying to be able to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And here's the thing. It all ties with my education in classical music. I'm a classical music major.
Yeah, when I read that, I
Yeah,
was
it's stupid.
intrigued. Yeah.
It's very, yeah. I mean, just to let you know that these are some of the things that I was going through in life, that I was starting to see that, first of all, I had a fairly decent high school band.
Uh-huh.
Not the greatest, but certainly very supportive. it was enough for me. Um, but I had some great teachers, Dr. Myron Leschwitz, Mr. Harold Woods, and another gentleman named George Haviland, who was the youngest of the crew, but certainly, like, with those three different age groups that they were in, they all created this kind of culture for me. But the college, the classical thing is really freaky because it just happened one summer, and it was by way of a guy who is largely influential in me doing this, and his name is Frank Pinto. I hope he's around. I used to hang out with this guy like every Friday for like 1 year, and I would just practice reading with him, just snare drum A2s and stuff like that. Later on, in the summer, I guess I was going into my junior year. It's like, hey, you gotta get into this, man. And I'm like, you gotta get into mallet playing. And I was like, oh, okay. And sure enough, our music department is now getting music that has stuff for xylophone, marimba, or stuff like that. We only had a xylophone, so we made the most of it. Budget cuts. But the thing that was huge in that time was the fact that that they were bringing more challenging music for us. Make a long story short, after the end of my junior year, the summer going into my senior year is when I asked the music department if I could borrow the xylophone and take it home for the summer.
Oh.
And so I remember the day I went to New York. I lived in New Jersey at the time. Shout out to North Bergen, Hudson County. That's really where my musical growth, emanated for real. The genesis may have started in the Bronx, but where I really started getting things and getting tools was New Jersey. And I didn't live that far from New York anyway, so it kind of still stayed local. I wasn't in the woods or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so that summer, I remember going to New York. I took the bus and I went and picked up a Bach piece. Johann. Shout out to Johann. Joao Sebastian, man. What a the nerve of that guy, just created some wonderful music. And I remember doing this, I think it was a prelude and fugue in D minor, but I was just doing one part. I was just playing one of the counter melody or something like that. No, the main melody I was playing. But it was like, you know how fugues are. They like cannons. You follow them. One melody is going on, then there's the counter melody that kind of follows it, and it just keeps playing like that through. And I mean, Bach was a magician at that.
Yeah.
Perhaps the very best at it. Certainly the one that certainly created it.
Yes.
I mean, I think they were all kind of at that time. You had the Bachs, the Beethovens, the Haydns, Handel, for that matter. And so, anyway, I worked on that piece. I worked on it every day. Worked on my scales. Worked on just because it led to me auditioning for the Manhattan School of Music pre-college division, which my friend Frank had already been going there a year. So I had already this going with me, and hearing his stories every Saturday, going over there, and it was a 1 day a week, a Saturday full day, 9 to 5. Theory, orchestra rehearsals, your lessons, of course, some practicing times, a little lunch, for the mind, and just the interactions with everybody And I was so green at the time. I was like, definitely a lot of catching up was going on throughout that whole time. I just was, I was like, deer with, the headlights come on. It was just I didn't know if I was going to be cut out to do this. You
But
know,
you were you
oops.
were obviously driven to continue.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was inspired because I just said, you know what? Once I started seeing that I could do this, I just needed to catch up. I needed to get, I needed definitely to put some time in for sure,
Yeah.
but definitely hooked. I was obsessed. It's that kind of thing where you just like you take music while you take music pieces, and while you're having lunch, you're going over it.
Yeah.
That's kind of stuff, like I don't do that as much as I once did, and I remember that, and I look at it fondly because it was just like I see the type of drive that I had and the kind of gear I shifted myself into,
Yeah.
um, and I just was falling in love. I was also the other thing that was important, and I don't really like to get too much into it because I just feel like I want to keep things kind of like on a neutral stance. And there wasn't a lot of people that looked like me that were doing all these things. You know, kind of from humble beginnings. I just didn't see a lot of people doing a little bit of everything what I was doing, and I explored that, and I explored it not because with that, well, nobody looks like me that is, trying all these different things. But I didn't see anybody, and if I
Yeah.
did, it was definitely more hush hush uh, than word of mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, now today, yeah, there's more people that look like me,
Yeah.
uh, and I wasn't trying to put a stamp on it, but I I just realized that there was, something different. Um, that- and was I supposed to like classical music as a kid? And I'm around my friends, it's like you're gonna listen to, what the music that we're listening to. You're not listening. You're afraid of being of being uh, thrown into the nerd room. And boy, I'll tell you what, I'll take nerd over anything else in the world because I know nerds that are pretty successful.
Well, when
Uh,
I mean, I think about myself too. So, I grew up in Boston, kind of
and
low middle income. And my
mhm,
dad was a sax player, but he had straight jobs. And my mom used to sing. She had been, like a big band singer. And I had twin sisters who were 4 years older than me who sang great and one played piano. So we always had music. I mean, it was never a day without music. But and then I grew up, listening mostly to my dad's stuff and then learning Girl from Ipanema with my sisters and that kind of stuff. And
wow,
then I went into Berkeley, but not as a singer because at that time there was no vocal at Berkeley. So I played flute
wow,
at the time.
really?
Yeah. And see, I have my flute here that I play once every month. And so anyway, so I went into Berkeley and that was I mean, other than, like rock groups in high school, which was, that was the time of da 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 da, Motown and
Yeah, right.
Woodstock and all that stuff. And that was, really life-changing for me, because it was a movement, and I was a good age. I was slightly young to go to Woodstock, but I was still in that group. And then
Yeah,
then I went to Berkeley, and so at that time it was the 70s. There was Motown, which I was really into. There was the Woodstock, and then There was,
Did
you
you
know,
go to Woods? You went to Wood? You went?
no, I was slightly, just
Lucky
slightly.
you, lucky you, lucky you. The accommodations weren't that great that weekend, from what I heard.
But
It's
then
come a
there
long
was,
way.
like, so then I started picking what I was listening to rather than picking what my dad's music, So I
Mm.
was really into Miles, like especially the, you know, kind of blue stuff, that was really up my wagon. And when I would do arranging at school, I would do stuff like not sax and trumpet, but I would do like flugelhorn and trombone or flugelhorn and flute, real kind of mellow sounds. Then there was Bob Moses and Weather Report, and that
Oh wow,
blew my
yeah.
mind. And like when you say, you really spend time. Do you know what I did at that time? I made two cassette tapes full of these short clips, like sometimes even 4 bars of anything that turned me on in any genre. So I had two
Wow,
complete CD, cassette tapes. The
yeah.
reason why I did that was to find out what I liked, what I liked. So I had all of these things
Huh.
like fretless bass, or Aretha singing this one thing, and so yeah, it was
Wow,
it was a really good time, That was very
yeah.
committed and excited and a turn on, and you spent lots of time like with your curiosity. Yeah.
That's unique. I mean, to have that, and I mean, like, it, it's 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 funny to find, uh, you know, we're transplants, right? Um, and not, we we have a lot to be proud of, where we're both from, because there's a lot of music legacy in those two cities,
Yeah.
Boston and New York, and they're, these are outsized personality cities,
Yeah.
let you know what they're feeling, uh, and to come over here to a musical culture like we you wouldn't believe. I mean, like I mean, it seems like everything comes from somewhere else, gets here, but repositions itself and reinvents itself in some small shape or way, order, whatever you want to, however you want to say it, uh, to is there an LA sound? I mean,
Not really.
that's a ridiculous question. I mean, I'm because there's just too much. Um, but like New York, I sort of like, there is a sound to me with New York. There's a soundtrack that I don't. It's like, when I think of music in New York, I think of the trains. I think of
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
the ones that are outside,
Yeah.
not the ones that are in the tunnels, but it's right above you, and there's just like this grit, this, and people walking. You know, we don't have that out here in LA so much. We're not a walk type culture.
Right.
We're a fitness type culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go over the, yeah, we'll work out more than all of y'all anywhere, because that's just what we've been like, forced,
Yeah.
in a sense. But all the better for it, it definitely exposed me to a lot of things, which was my whole thing anyway. My wanting to come to LA, my reason for coming to Los Angeles, it didn't start playing music right away. It started in 1992, and there was I kind of was in a relationship with this girl, and she lived out here. So, um, shout out to Michelle if she's still around. We just reunited after so many years, about 20 years, and she
Oh,
lives
really?
she lives like 10 minutes away from me, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, so it's
Wow.
yeah, so it's kind of yeah, it's funny how the world works, man. But she's doing well, and glad that she is. I wound up staying. I didn't want that to be the ultimate reason. I really liked Los Angeles. I liked the way it was spread out. It's funny, you hear people like, you know, B wording and Ming and like, you know, moaning, you know, figure out the B for yourself, you know what that is. You know, but it just you know, but people, I was like, nah, man, this is what I've been yearning for. You know, it's kind of funny how you know, people even here. I have a great friend, Donald Vega, who lived out here, grew up here,
Yeah.
been living in New York for almost 20 years. He plays with Ron Carter. And he's not, he doesn't even think about coming back. I mean, other than to visit family, but that's home.
Yeah.
And, you know, so it's funny how these relationships, these contrasts where you grew up and where you are now,
Yeah.
where they put you at.
Yeah.
And I was just, I just found like, also at that time, I felt like I needed to grow too. I wasn't, you know, I've been surrounded by my family, and I just felt like I really needed to develop a sense of independence,
Yeah.
because I felt I was just too dependent on my mother.
Uh-huh.
She'd been there for all of us, for me and my sister, and she did it by herself. So imagine, you know, just the weight of that. Obviously, me leaving was hard.
Yeah.
But I needed to grow
Yeah.
as a person,
Yeah.
and not yet as a musician, just at that time, because I took a break when I yeah, about 2 years after getting out of college, I felt like I needed a break to let me find myself, let me see what I want to do. And what brought that back was like 1994. After about 2.5 years of not playing, I saw that Francisco Aguabella was playing somewhere, the late great master tambolero, and I was trying to find a place. I had gotten a Thomas guide. I didn't know how to use it at all. You know, I never used that thing. So I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna find this place. And I never found it. It was someplace in Pasadena, but I had just gotten a car, so I didn't know the roads yet. You
Yeah.
know, I had been doing everything by bus at that time. So just let you know, I really started from ground zero.
Yeah.
You know, from not having a car to having a car, and you know, and it goes on. But actually later that year, in the summer, he heard about my name, and so there's an instrument called bata, and bata, these hourglass-shaped drums that are used for religious ceremonies, more notably religion or faith, spirituality, called Santeria. And so at that time, I was studying, and so I was kind of ready to play, and so he was looking for a new guy and stuff like that. So I went to a ceremony, and I remember meeting him. It was in Echo Park, and there was a bakery called El Carmelo, which was owned by a Cuban guy, but it was there for a gazillion years. And there were two meeting places that I would meet Francisco anytime before we go play. This is the Burger King on Glendale Boulevard, right by the lake, by Echo Park Lake, right there.
Yeah.
And that bakery. And Francisco, man, what a force, man. I to tell you, when I was hearing names of these guys as a kid, my dad telling me, you know, you got to listen to this guy, you got to listen to this guy, you got to listen to this guy. He was a Mongonista. That was his man at the end of the day. But Armando Peraza and Francisco Aguabella will always lump into those conversations as well, because and another guy too, named Julito Collazo, who's childhood friends with Francisco. One went to the East Coast, one stayed on the East Coast, and one decided to stay on the West Coast. Francisco didn't like cold weather, so it was an easy decision for him to come out here. Although he lived in San Francisco for many years, which is interesting because it gets cold over there.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and you know, and that was the other thing also, just to shoot right in. I didn't want to move to San Francisco because it felt like New York.
Uh-huh.
So that's why, you
That's
know,
funny. Yeah.
it had these moments for me where I was like, you know, I know it's not New York, but it feels like it. I want to stay here, you know.
You know
And
what?
and
I just have to say, when I moved out to the West Coast, I went to San Francisco for 6 months, and it was too much like Boston. So I moved down to LA.
yeah, okay. I mean, is it the weather? Yeah, probably a little bit. I don't know. It's just, I don't
Different
know.
enough
Maybe
or something. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe I needed more savvy, entertainment-ish looking kind of
Yeah.
people. You know, I don't know. It just seemed like I don't know. I just saw a lot more opportunities uh, coming from this city.
Yeah.
Uh, it seemed like to be. I don't know. I just loved looking at the sunrise, and that was that. You know, it gave perspective for me for the day.
Yeah.
That it's going to be a beautiful day, and you had more of these days than not. And I mean, up until recently, we weren't having those kind of sunny days. You know,
This year was
it was a
very bizarre.
it's been a crazy rainy, and we're still in a drought. So
Yeah, yeah.
hey,
I
it,
know.
it, that's LA for you, you know. But we experienced massive amounts of rain where climate
Yeah.
is compromised, the ground is compromised, just a myriad of things that you know you see you see why things are falling you know from mountains and stuff. Just don't get that type of rain, you know. And it changes. It's a force, man. It changes things molecularly and geologically. So anyway, but anyway, that was kind of like my thing, you know. I had I pushed myself in so many different directions for a while. Even when I got out of school, to college, I graduated in 1990, and I remember that summer. It was a really bad summer because my grandfather passed away, and
Mm.
I was really tight with him. And but I think you know he was kind of ready to go. He wasn't, you know, his partner of 40 years was no longer around. My grandmother, he just wasn't happy, and so you know things happened. But I remember about after a couple of weeks of his passing, I got a call from a producer in Germany saying, "Hey, we're doing a show called Sophisticated Ladies, which is a Duke Ellington based on the life of uh, Duke Ellington, and we're going to go out to Europe for 5 months."
Oh,
And I was like, the tears wiped away. I was like, let me go get my suitcase, let me get ready. I can't believe that, you know, this is the bucket list of a lifetime. Since
yeah.
I was a kid, I wanted to go to Europe. Where's the first place I go? Iconic Roma, and what a place to start off. You know, I mean, you know, it wasn't, you know, a city that's what is it, 7 hills, seven something like that. It's like that's a city. And I remember I don't know about you, but like when I would tell people where I'm from, I would say I'm from the city. Until somebody from Pittsburgh in that band pointed it out. What do you mean the city? I said, Pittsburgh, I could say the same thing about me. I said, well, I don't know Pittsburgh. I said, I know when we come from New York, we say I'm from the city. So, and you know, just kind of shows you how small the optics were in my head. You
Right,
know,
right.
I kind of lived in this small world at the same time, uh, expanding my world, but like just didn't have that kind of sixth sense.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I just, you know, I was kind of weird as a child. I was shy. I was like, you know, I did not engage socially,
Uh-huh.
which was, which you know, that may have been for reasons just experiencing. I My high school years, as great as they were, there were some low points. You know, you experience a little racism. I grew up in a white school,
Yeah.
and I moved in, my mom moved us into a neighborhood that was predominantly white, and it was and that was, my mom's lighter than me. I mean, but I have all the features of my dad. And that was a new experience, to experience some dislikes around there just for no reason without even knowing you. And so I probably pushed away and just, kept to myself, which maybe get more, of a deep dive into what I wanted to do, which was I wanted to play. I just wanted to play all day.
Yeah.
It's,
Do you teach as well now?
I teach, yes. I've been teaching privately for many years, but I've gotten into the bigger circle. I've been teaching at Cal Arts, California Institute
Oh,
of the Arts. I've been teaching there since 2015, and I started there. I teach there part time. I also teach there at Cal State Los Angeles. I
yeah.
started teaching there about 2 years ago. Cal Arts, I have to say, shout out to Aaron Sefati, who sprung that job for me. He had been teaching there for about 20 years, and he had just started teaching at
USC.
USC.
Yeah.
And so, they had been kind of trying some people for the position.
Uh-huh.
And I just told him, I said, I know you're teaching, I know you're not teaching there, but if there's an opening, please let me know. And sure enough, spoke to the department chairman. His name is David Roydstein. David, shout out to you.
Yeah.
David's what a gift of a person. He is just in every way a teacher, a student's teacher,
Yeah.
put it that way,
Yeah.
very caring, very but firm also, but not like hammer down, hey, you know what you got to do here, get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's a great pianist.
A fantastic pianist, yeah. I mean, and all different styles, man. He's just extremely versatile, humble human being, salt of the earth. I really care a great deal about him, um, for many reasons. And that job came to me at a great point in my life, where I think I was ready to kind of move along into more of an educational status. I don't know. I think I wanted to also have some consistency work wise
Yeah.
and relevance,
Yeah.
in this business, you know, as long as I've done it outside of the educational field, I wanted to grow as a teacher, and I think I wanted to try to become more selective in type of work I wanted to do. Where when you're just working, 1099 gig in it, that's cool, but it gets a little tiring, and sometimes you don't. There's things you have to do, but you don't want to do. So it's a combination of things, that make me want to work out there on the field. If it's great musicianship, money's the last thing I'm thinking about, really. But you do have to think about it, because then you have children that come into your life. You have a marriage. You have a family life, and that gets thrown into it.
Yeah.
And I did have that, albeit too short, unfortunately. But that's life, and I got to carry on.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, well, good example is this Sunday. We're not making a huge amount of money, but we're playing, and anybody who wants to come can. It's a really good cause. It's the only hospice that exists for children, and
oh,
specifically for
You're doing that on Sunday?
you are too.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
And with Leftwich and Mitchell Long. And
That's right.
so so yeah, that's a good example. We're not making a lot of money, and but it's a really great charity. It's called Loving Home Hospice. It's Sunday if you're in LA. Sunday. It's a really nice situation. For a little chunk of money, you get a
Yeah.
really great meal and four bands. And it's really
Wow.
nice. It's lovely. It's at the Woodland Hills Country Club, which is really quite beautiful. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, we're doing that in the afternoon, like 3 to 6:30. So if anyone's around around who wants to come, that's
Yeah.
come on
Yeah.
over.
I gotta blast that. I, I,
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I will do that.
yeah. It's
That's
really
great. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
That'll be, that's very giving of, I love those kinds of things. Because really, you don't realize how important you're going to touch people, man. You really, and I've done these things a bunch of times now, where you're left with some sensibility, man, like a good, like good servitude, great servitude, you know.
yeah.
So kudos to you for for doing that too, and
Well,
and to the
I
other
mean,
bands.
when you see who the woman who started it, like 12
Yeah,
years ago, you'll see why, because
right.
she's kind of an angel on earth. She's really done a lot, and she's just real sweet and real
Hmm.
giving and yeah, persistent. She's gonna get what she needs for this. It's
Yeah.
really cool. I think they've been doing it in people's homes for all these years, and then so they're kind of on a goal to actually build a location, for themselves, or
Wow.
get a location, buy a location. My friend Dan
That's
has listed all music for you with 91 credits.
Oh wow. Look at
You
that.
you probably don't even know that, right?
I know a few, and I think there's actually more. But don't quote me on
Oh,
that.
there
But I'm
probably is because you actually can add, you know. So
yeah.
Art, I now you had a stint with Arturo for a while, right?
I
For like a year.
yeah, I did that for about 1 year. Yeah, and I got to perform on what a Grammy award winning To Diz with Love, I think it's called. I forget.
Uh-huh.
It's a tribute to Dizzy Gillespie.
Yeah, it says
Um,
Dear Diz every day I think of you.
yeah, that's it. Dear Diz, I
You've been
think
with
about.
Gordon Goodwin and John Beasley.
Yeah, I've been with Gordon about 10 years now. Gordon Goodwin has been a revelation for me, just because at that same time I was going through my life change and all that. I got the opportunity to start playing with people a little bit outside the circuit.
Uh-huh.
Um, in terms of, I had been so immersed in the Latin community and the Latin music, but here I am, and I worked all my, I've been working all my life, and I want to show something for it in a different uh, setting. I just wanted to, I wanted to get those opportunities uh, that people could see,
Yeah.
maybe there's something here. Maybe this guy has a little bit of something, but does he? There's a lot to getting into these circles. It's personality, vibe,
Yeah,
energy.
definitely.
I
You
think.
have some Dave Garfield, Jose Rizzo,
Oh yeah,
Jim Self. Huh.
Jim
Uh,
Self. Yeah.
I like your Joey to the World. That title is good. Joey De Francesco.
Yeah, Joey D. Hard to believe he's not with us any longer,
I
man.
know, isn't it? Hey, I
Yeah,
want
it's
to
it.
see some more of you play. Do you mind?
No, please, please
Uh,
go ahead.
let's see what comes up and you. Oh, here's no, I wrote that probably. You're gonna have to direct me here.
Yeah, let's see what we got. Why don't you go down a little bit? Why don't you play that big fat band solo right there.
Okay,
That's
cool.
like, the ending will surprise you. That's it. That's it on that. Yeah, that was in May of 2014, I think, and it was a period. My sister was in her last month of existence, and so that song was always in my head as a kid, and so it just yeah, it got emotional there. It got emotional there. I'm even emotional now just thinking about that. I haven't seen that in a while. And so just kind of a send off, like, thanks for being my sister. Thanks for I'm sorry we didn't have as much time.
I get it. While you're composing yourself, my
Yeah,
twin sisters are both gone,
yeah.
and
It's deep.
yeah, it
It's
is
deep.
deep, especially for me. Like when we grew up, it was the three of us singing. So one passed, the other one couldn't sing for years, and then
Right.
finally we got back into singing. And then the other one went, and it's yeah, it's
It's tough. It's tough.
tough.
It's
Sisters.
I mean, they were older or younger?
Mine were 4 years older than me.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it's yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, I'm cool now, but it definitely it just comes up, it's just it was a very life-changing moment
Yeah,
uh for my mom, for me, yeah, for everybody. So it's changed the dynamic in a lot of ways, but we deal with it. We have to deal with it,
yeah,
you
yeah. Of
know.
course.
It's just unfortunate. Yeah.
Well,
I
I don't know if you think like this, but when I
right.
get a hit from them, like,
Right.
I get overwhelmed, then I
Uh-huh.
realize, oh, they're here visiting me. That's why I'm thinking of them. And so then
Ah,
I have a nice conversation with them and it's really nice,
yeah,
you know?
that's deep. That's really deep.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah, I tend to do that too. I mean, there's not a day that goes by that I don't, do not think about her.
yeah.
Uh and what and because we grew up as man, we fought like crazy as kids, man. It was just like everything, it seemed like almost on purpose. Like we for instance, when we would go into New York and we would take the George Washington Bridge. Uh, I liked the top. She liked the bottom of the bridge because it had two levels. It was like it was just always there was always an opposite going on. Just to mess. Either she was messing with me or I was messing with her. As we got older, we realized how much we really cared about each other, and she had some health issues, so that's kind of what what took place with her, and it just deteriorated in the course of 10 years. And she, but we, every time we talk, like, many years later as adults now, because I think as kids we were in our own ways.
Yeah, sure.
She had her own thing going on. She was much more the maverick than I was, man. I mean, she was she was not scared of anything. And I was the opposite. I was scared. I was shy. And I felt like, I feel now that what she had, she gave it to me. So it
Yeah.
kind of explains a little bit why I think I am the way I am now. Just a risk taker, I guess. All in type of guy. Not half full.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah. So I got, and you know what? She never complained about my practicing. Never, never, Cathy. I thought hard, and I really scoured through my brain to find something. Never. And we lived in an apartment building, and that was right there next to her. And she just let me go, let me at it. So what can I say? I owe her a huge thank you and love you, because she never complained, man. And I was hitting every day. But I think maybe she saw, like, when you find something you love to do, and she'd been seeing that since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I never, only for a few years that I was a little bit detached from it. But other than that, that was that was my transitioning from moving to New York to Los Angeles, where I took 2.5 years of just more about discovering myself, taking myself on a journey, finding out what life is like. Because again, this is still even more shy then. I was trying to get that weight lifted off, that I could not be afraid to tackle, and to socialize more often, and to meet people, and to be uncomfortable, to be okay to be in uncomfortable situations at times. You got to work through it. You got to fight it. If you want it. So
Well, you
I
seem to have worked through that, because I wouldn't call
oh
you
yeah.
strong.
Maybe it's a little bit too much now. Maybe, I don't know. But I don't know. I love me right now. I love where I'm at, with who I am. I'm not perfect. I'm marred here and there. But I'm really happy where I'm at, as far as me as a person. That took a while. That took a while to get to. And my mom is still, she's, thank God, she's still around. My dad, unfortunately, he passed away some 20 years ago. And he, that's another interesting thing, because we started talking about, how I got started and all that. My dad, when I was a kid, I would just, on Sundays would play side to side with him. And he would just, put on the radio. There was a radio station on Sundays that played Latin music, called WRVR 106.7. The DJ's name was Roger Dawson. Irish guy, man. But, that wasn't any shock or anything. Irish, Jewish people, German people, Austrian people have been into this music. And the Bronx, funny thing, it's named after an Austrian person named Jonas Brunk.
Huh.
They changed the name because I don't know how that happened, but I guess it sounded better. Bronx, yeah. We're gonna just it's gonna keep it like that. Yeah. So but the Bronx is it's funny. It's like a camouflage of so many people. You know it for it to be associated heavily with Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Cubans, and stuff like that. But it's got everything you could possibly want.
Yeah.
Um, every demographic in the world, Asian.
Did you happen to see the movie In the Heights?
Yeah, I saw In the Heights. Yeah, I saw. Yeah, that's a Washington. That's up in Washington Heights,
I
which is
loved that movie. Not, I mean,
yeah,
for
it was
a lot of different reasons, but the music was great, the dancing was great with all shaped people, and the acting was great. But the story, I really loved the story. It wasn't like the Spanish, downtrodden, drug laden,
yeah.
it was like
It's
a community of people working together and lifting each other up. Man, I dug that
it's a
movie.
working class. It's a working class. That's a working class neighborhood, Washington Heights.
Yeah.
Um, you've got so much commerce, so much infrastructure going on over there, and it often doesn't get in the newsreels.
Yeah.
You know, it gets lost because we're known as the city of thieves. Backstabbing. Crime,
Yeah.
drugs, death. All this alcoholism. All these nightmares that have somewhat fractured us as a whole.
Yeah.
And when I say whole, I don't mean just me. I mean just as a people. That we kind of get that look. That second stare down. It's like, you
Yeah.
know, uh, and myself. I have to be smarter than to know that I can never let that be the end all. That's gonna, uh, put me with my back up against the wall and always have me feel fear. You know, and it's just something one has to work at.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me at least. But being in this world now long enough, you get seasoned, and you get the right seasoning, the right ingredients to put yourself in a better position
Yeah.
to handle things,
Yeah.
and luckily, if I don't know, maybe if I had stayed in New Jersey this whole time, I don't know how much I would have grown
Well,
as a person.
right.
I would like to think uh, a lot, um, but who knows? But LA, I grew up a lot here.
Yeah.
Uh, in ways that I don't know if I could have gotten that back there, just because I'm alone. I'm here by myself, and so
Yeah.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it in a different way. Uh,
I have to tell
and
you,
I'm
I have to tell you a theory that I've had for the years. Okay, so for various reasons, but the East Coast, like it, because at one point
mhm.
before I met Joey's brother, I was thinking of moving to
Uh-huh.
New York, and then I met Gus, and I got married and stayed here. But I really felt like in New York or Boston, but New York specifically, that there was this big wheel turning, and the challenge was to jump on the wheel. And in LA, there was no wheel turning, and the challenge was to build it. And I saw this in many different ways. I saw, one of my dear friends lived over there and she was a singer. I saw how we were growing, It was
Yeah.
it's really interesting. I mean, even the American Indians have perspectives of the East and the West and the North and the South. And
Right.
who you are reflects that, and then,
Yes.
you know. Anyway, by the way, Kevin O'Neill is here. He says hi.
Oh, Kevin! Big, big virtual hug.
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting, when you think back about what you gained, why, you stayed here, you didn't move to Europe, you didn't move to New York, whatever. and and what you gained. I mean, you know, it's your own personal path, right? That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. At the end of the day, yeah. Basically, yeah. I can't live by way of what my mother would want, what our parents would want. We had different dreams.
Yeah.
Um, for my mom, um, I guess at one point she thought about changing her lifestyle and getting more into law for a period. But kind of with time, it's very difficult raising two kids, and it was a lot harder for her. So she just concentrated on working and being the best parent as best as possible, and just making us stay in line. Because my father was like, he wasn't around all that much at one point. Well, you know, certainly when they went their separate ways, I we would stay with my father um, on the weekends, um, almost every weekend, I should say. Um, but as we got older too, we had activities on Saturdays. I had marching band, and so and so now things were taking on a different level,
Yeah.
so to speak, and I started seeing him less and less, and then we got to a point where I don't know, you're teenagers and you go through things, and at one point I remember not even talking to my dad for a long time. It's something I greatly resent, because I could have stopped that, but I was about 18, and I was just mad at him for not being there
Yeah.
when I needed it.
Yeah.
I needed some of those dad things, some of those fatherly things, just to help tighten my belt a little bit better, or have an awareness.
Yeah.
So your each parent does as much as they can,
Yeah.
and I think he also was going through some personal stuff, some demons, that he never addressed, um,
I
or
know
he didn't address it at.
it takes a little bit of time and
Mhm.
maturing to actually allow to think, okay, he did the best he could. I had similar stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad did some very weird stuff for all of my life, and you know, and then at one point when I was in my 30s, maybe I got really pissed off. I really fully got the picture of what he did ethically, and
Right.
I I wrote this letter and I sent it to each of my family members and I called him and I read him the letter. And there was
Wow.
and check this out, you'll appreciate it. So there was this long silence, right? Then all of a sudden my dad asked me about uh my career, what was happening. And I was like all upset. I had been crying and reading this letter, and I was like, what the
Mm.
fuck. So
Yeah.
I told him, basically it was a
Yeah.
struggle,
Yeah.
I was at the struggling age. And he said something like, well, you do the best you can do. And
Right.
and all of a sudden I realized that's what he couldn't say that to me responding to what I had written. So that was his
Yeah.
whatever apology or whatever. And I got it.
Right.
It was like, okay, he was fucked up for whatever reason, his parents or whatever, and
Yeah.
okay, he did the best he could do. And he did give me
Yeah.
some wonderful things, he gave me the love for jazz, and
Yeah.
and lots of good stuff, He was a really good dad for a while, like at a certain
Yeah.
age, So,
Yeah. I
man,
feel the same. I feel the same. I feel like, he had this one great period. Um, I don't know. I'd say maybe the first 10 years
yeah,
of my life. Um, really impactful. I mean, made gave music to me. I mean, my mom also did too. She loves music. Uh, she's more on the dancing side. Great dancer, great Latin dancer. And so, but, I was hooked on the drum. I was, I never stopped.
Yeah.
And it was like, I played till my hands hurt. I didn't care. I just and I just saw how he approached it too. Uh, just a very hard hitting, uh, gut punching kind of a player, which actually came back to bite him because he had to stop playing for a couple of years. In those days in the '70s, they didn't have the kind of audio equipment in a lot of places that they played, and so the challenge was that here's how the drummers were kind of graded. It was like how hard they can hit, how long they can last, the stamina, the endurance to deal with it without a microphone.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, other instruments are amplified and mic, but the conga was the one guy, like, yeah, I'm sorry, we don't have one for you,
Yeah.
and it's changed since, but that's kind of like the mentality that was there during that time. That's why you saw a lot of guys with tape on their hands.
Oh.
It was much more hard hitting culture
Yeah.
and generational type playing
Yeah.
than it is now. Where now, if somebody say a person that plays the same instrument as me and he sees tape, it's like, you okay? It's like they kind of attribute it to like bad technique or something
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. Like I was like, no, I've just been playing every day. These things. If I'm playing a lot of hand drums and I'm not playing with sticks, then it takes on a different animal. It's the recovery time and now, much more developed as a player. I don't play like that anymore,
Yeah.
because it's a lot that it requires. But when you're young, you're like,
Yeah.
you're out to prove people. You're much more tight-fisted with everything, including your opinions. Your 30s, you start loosening the belt one notch. Okay, the 40s, you start losing it another notch. All this is like, these
Yeah.
mental faculties that are going inside my head. It's just um, I see what the change as a player, what I was before, and there's a certain sense of liberation now, uh, because I've figured out some things that I could still be impactful and not have to be the loudest player or
Yeah.
this, and because that was a thing. That was a thing at the period my dad was growing up.
Yeah.
That kind of culture. So, but
Even
he's
yesterday I talked to Will Lyle, a young player in
yeah.
uh, and he was talking, he had studied with Ron Carter for years. But and Ron, educated him like before Ron Carter really, who kind of made the jazz bass. Um, Before
Yes,
that,
it is.
there was no amplification, and the bass was just hit really hard. It wasn't really that musical. It was like, just get the sound out there, Oh man.
Yeah, punching bags.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really hard.
Yeah, I mean, we probably, it wasn't just percussionists. There were other instrumentalists too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Bass players for sure. Yeah, I could only imagine. Um, you know, the days of one mic in the air and everybody recording at once. I
Right.
mean, we've come a long, long way. But once upon a time, that was the existence.
Yeah.
Until they started figuring out some things.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have to ask you about timbales. Just maybe I don't know what I want to ask, but I just love timbales. Why do I love it? I'm not sure. Is it a particular rhythm that timbales generally uh, go with? Or obviously the sound is something.
Yeah, it's all of those things you mentioned. When in the right hands, that's the key.
Yeah.
Because there's a high level of musicianship that is required with the timbale instrument. Timbale, it's funny, like that instrument. It took me a while to listen to really enjoy the sound for what it is as itself. Like in a band context, oh no, no problem. But just to hear it alone was something that took a little bit of time for me so that I could really like embed these rhythms inside me, where I'm, like, okay, the same way I'm playing the congas or something, or I'm playing even the drum set, those drum set and congas came easier because I guess I had I had every every level of sound. I had the highs, I had the mediums, I had the lows, I had the sub, the bass drum. I have all uh these tonalities, the cymbals, everything worked harmoniously together. Timbal is a little different because a lot of times just timbales as is doesn't have bass drum in its arsenal, but it is utilized. But traditionally, that wasn't the case. And I think it's just like I think it's again, it's a combination of the rhythms itself when they're placed when they're played, uh, and I think it's more like accompaniment wise too. Like you really enjoy it when you're playing with somebody. I mean, that's kind of an obvious for everything, but uh, you just feel more planted, in the sense that I'm playing along with something. I guess that may be the thing with me. I just like to have something go with it. I mean, yeah, mentally, I can visualize it. I can sing it and do it at the same time as I'm playing the drum, as I'm playing the timbales. But I think it's just everything. I think it's the sound that the sort of different sounds that are played on the various different parts of the drum head, particularly well, both drums. They have a certain area where you generally play at. Uh, the larger timbal, you generally play it more in the middle.
Yeah.
That's where the tone is best struck. But the
Yeah.
higher pitched, you can play it in the middle, but it's also used at the edge. One of the one of the most important things is the abanico. That's the roll. Abanico is fan in Spanish,
Huh.
and just the sound of that instrument, how when executed right, it's a thing of beauty. It's just a beautiful sound.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Buddy Rich on the snare drum, but in a different way. But just you know, the one thing with 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 me really liking a timbal player is that first of all the balance. If he knows how to play in a rhythm section uh, without just having to hammer out so much, because sometimes in the beginning that's the situation.
Yeah.
You know, you're playing a little bit too loud and you're not blending,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. The blending is a huge component of uh, of the timbal instrument. But just yeah, knowing those things. I don't know if that
You
answers
were
your question, but
yeah, you were talking before, about in the beginning, well, I think when we were talking about Bobby Rodriguez, about so much sound. And but like when we played at the Urban Press with I think it was Edwin and Mitchell, and
yes,
you were playing congos and some percussion. And what was so amazing about that gig for me was space. Everybody. There was
yeah,
space, everybody left space, and
Yeah,
it's a beautiful thing to have space. It makes it so musical.
yeah. I yeah, I took notice of that too. Because yeah, you want to be engaging at the same time. You don't want to be like, you know, ta-da, ta-da,
Right.
ta-da. It's blasphemy, just not really being mindful
Yeah.
of others, and witnessing what they do too. That is important. Letting and acknowledging that,
Yeah.
I think that goes a long way, um, both on and off the stage. Because
I mean, it adds to the music, right? And we're always talking about serving the music, you know.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We definitely want to insert our personality. Yeah, true. It just doesn't have to be splash, splash all the time.
Yeah.
Like enjoy yourself in this capacity, in this space. Give way. Be generous.
Yeah.
You know, don't always don't make it about you.
Yeah.
I mean, we all look. We all have to have an ego. We all have to be our own hype man. Uh, 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 because that's what makes us, I think, makes us stronger as people. It's an important aspect to have, as a musician, as an artist, to have that conviction, that feeling, uh, that like, yeah, I got to put my chest out a little bit up front, just a hair, not
Yeah.
annoyingly impulsive. So
You know what?
that's
I don't
yeah.
I bet you haven't heard this, but Buddy Rich, who was, quite the presence, he said you have to have an ego to get out of the way.
Huh,
That's kind of what you're
that's
talking about.
yeah,
You
yeah,
have to have you have to have some ego, but then you do something with it, like
yeah.
you you choose space and it's your choices. Your choices are definite, you know.
Yeah, that sometimes like the choice, doing less or even just saying no. When you get, Eddie Resto told me this one day. He says, "You have no idea the power of the word no, especially when it comes to work. When you decide, yeah, I'm not going to take that because I don't feel like it's not meeting the whatever requirement.
Yeah.
And I said, that's, I never heard it that way. How powerful a no is, or just saying no because you have commitments that you want to honor.
Yeah.
You say you got a family commitment.
Yeah.
We've always done this where we've broken up the fabric, with I got to do, I was guilty of it my whole marriage. It was, taking jobs, and maybe putting them above family.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hard one to swallow. And I thought for many years a lot about that after. I said, I don't know why. I just was kind of thinking like, hey, you know what? Got to get whatever you can, and just say yes. So I got I got used to saying yes a lot more than saying no.
Yeah.
And this is an ego getting in the way. Uh, but getting out of the way, that's a very multi-layered kind of concept, because just the fact of approaching it in the way that you go, yeah, I don't need to do anything here. I'm Joey DeLeon, you know. I'm and maybe they'll see that. I don't have to be doing this so much here, or constantly have my fingers in the cookie jar. So yeah, that's I never heard it that way, but I like it.
Yeah, me too.
I, I like it. I gotta I now that hearing it, I gotta put it into practice and see how how it affects me, because I never thought of that. That's really deep.
Yeah, it is really deep, actually. When I heard that, I was like, that is so cool. I love
Yeah,
it in one
physics.
sentence. Yeah. Yeah, and from Buddy Rich, he was very present,
Yeah. Who?
played a lot.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Um, let's see. Dan, I don't know if we might have played this one already. Yeah, we already played this one, Dan. But thank you.
Okay.
Oh no, actually, maybe not. This is a Vic Firth thing with you and Joey.
Oh yeah, yeah. Put it on. Put it on.
Play a little bit of that. We're almost at the end here, but
Okay.
it's kind of cool to see
Segue.
something else. Let's see.
We didn't even rehearse. This was just we just played. Outside the box.
Yeah, so cool. Great.
Now
That's
it starts
yummy.
taking on a different character now. Kind of going through this kind of 6/8 kind of thing. Using some Vic Firth products too. So I played that with these blast sticks on the congas, which may be frowned upon because some of the old heads, but just trying to do something different. It's a sound. Yeah. Now it kind of goes into a 4/4 fast songo-ish. Joey feet. I love his playing. I love his playing.
Wow.
Yeah. Vicious.
Whew.
Ooh. Yeah. Oh, I haven't seen this in a minute. Wow.
Oh my
There you go.
God. Oh my God,
Wow.
you guys. You guys. Smoke.
Memories.
Jeez. Well, it has been 2 hours, my friend.
Wow.
And
Time.
thank you so
There's so
much.
much more. There's so much more I need to say, but may- we could do, we'll do that later. We'll do it another time.
Yeah, this was really
I would
fun.
love to. I'd love to get back sometime down the road to
Yeah,
see if we
cool. We'll do it.
revisit. You know, if you do encores, you know, or
Yeah, I
part
do,
twos.
but you can't say anything the same.
No, we won't. That's for sure. That's easy.
Oh, hey, Renee Camacho. Hi.
Renee, that's another important cog in my life. That guy.
He's going to be
I,
on in a few weeks.
oh, great! I can't wait. I'm gonna tune on. I met him when he first came into town. In fact, very first rehearsal, he came in. Uh, Renee's had this. He's had this Chevy Blazer since he moved out here. He still has it, and it's just like that's the kind of
Oh,
guy. The kind of loyalty you could ever want from a guy. He's loyal to that car. Uh, he's had
yeah.
others, but that's the main. But that's been the main one, and it's just like it's so amazing to still see it and just look at it fondly with so many memories. It's just like going to gigs, just picking me up, us, just having the time of our lives. Unreal, unreal. But just it's like Eddie, one of the one those important pieces in my life. Renee's been there for a great many of them since he first got into town. So he's
Yeah,
a very important person in my life,
cool.
and glad to see still rocking it.
Well, I want you to have a great rest of the day. Tomorrow, my live guest is John Story, who's a really, really great jazz guitar player in LA. And then
Oh, okay.
bunch of archives. um, and if you're in LA, there's a lot of stuff happening at Kulak's Woodshed, which you have to come over and maybe play.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd love to. Yeah, I haven't been. I don't think I've been there. I think I went once, but it's a long time ago.
me too, a long, long
Yeah.
time ago. And then I recently got hooked up for it. And yeah, so like just a quick mention. Wednesday night, there's a jazz singer showcase, and Thursday night is Vinny Golia, who is a compadre
Oh,
of yours, and his
yeah.
quintet, which has was past students of his, but they're like way beyond student. It's the frigging greatest quintet. That's Thursday night. And
Okay.
yeah, and then Friday, actually, at the G Spot, which a lot of you guys know, it's a private house venue in Highland Park. There's a
Right.
really interesting group, kind of world jazz, really like interesting players happening. You can see that on my Facebook page. And then Saturday, my girlfriend is here from Australia, an award-winning jazz singer, Michelle Nicole. She's playing with Larry Kuntz, who's also a compadre of
Oh,
yours
yeah.
at Cal
Yes, sir.
Arts. And
Yes,
then
ma'am.
Sunday, the hospice gig.
That's us.
If you want to like put a little bread down and come see four groups and have a good meal and be outside in this gorgeous country club, that's where to come. So,
Perfect.
thanks for being here, man. It was really fun.
Thank you, Kathy. Long time coming, and it's been a pleasure to get to know you and to work with you as well, and more to come. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the way I'm looking at it. So
Yep, me too.
let's keep on keeping on.
Okay, man. Love you.
Okay,
Bye
love
bye.
you. Bye bye.
Bye.